Hello, everyone, and good day. Welcome to Verdicts and Vogue. I'm here with Jonathan Negretti.
Hi.
Hi. How are you?
I'm good.
How do you feel right now?
I feel it's awkward. I'm on the other side of the table. Usually I'm the one asking the questions.
I know.
Yeah.
Do you know that you're the reason why I started this podcast?
Well, then I'm sorry in advance for that. You will regret this down the road at some point.
Well, do you remember, or do you want to explain how it all kind of went down as far as the podcast, me wanting to take over Legal Beagle?
Yeah, I think you said, I want your podcast. And I said, you can have it. And it was that simple. It was very transactional.
Yes. I admired the work that you had done, all the interviews that you had done. Your sarcasm and your humor throughout is something that I aspire to. And then I happened to meet you at a meeting where you were being extremely social and started chatting up about the podcast.
Yeah, it was an AA meeting.
No,
it was. You can tell your listeners. It was an AA meeting and we were sharing and I shared about the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. The podcast that I started was an evolution and it started literally on an app on my phone. The first episode was recorded with me holding my phone like this and just talking. There was no video.
Okay. So it's just a recording.
It was just an audio and it grew from there.
What made you want to do it?
I think I was getting all these calls, as you can appreciate. Friends and family call a lot with legal questions. And those questions are not often in my wheelhouse of the type of work that I do. But I realized there was a need for education in the space. That I didn't see a lot of resources where people were just talking more generally about the law. What I saw was a lot of people talking about their big wins. And that's fun, but if you're not in the profession, you don't even understand what that means.
Sure.
So I wanted to answer legal questions. And so I decided I was just going to start talking one day about legal stuff and hoping that maybe it would help people. And that evolved into a podcast that eventually didn't have a fancy studio like this, but it had a semblance of a studio and some pretty big guests.
You did. You have some very notable guests.
Yes.
And my hope is I'm bringing back those episodes, Legal Beagle, through Verdicts and Vogue. So it'll be my take on the Legal Beagle, and then we will be showcasing your previous work and the interviews that you've had. So I want to thank you for motivating me to do this and to honoring me with the ability to take over the podcast.
Well, I can't be in better hands. I couldn't think of a better person than you to do this. I actually was at the tail end of my run as a podcaster. And so I wasn't doing anything with it. Sure. And when we met and we talked about the idea of you taking it over, I was so excited because I think you're the perfect fit.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Are you buttering me up?
A little bit.
I'll take it. It's okay. It's Friday. So tell me, how is it that you got into law? Were you straight out of law school or did you have a career prior to the law?
I did have a career prior to going to law school. I have no attorneys in my family. This was not a lineage of attorneys and your grandfather was an attorney, your father was an attorney, you're going to be an attorney. This was something that happened completely by accident. And I truly mean that. I was in media. I was in sales. I was doing quite well. I was just kind of a little bored with what I was doing. Mm-hmm. And so I was going to go back to school to get into executive management. I was going to get an MBA. At the same time that I was looking into getting the MBA, a buddy of mine who was an attorney just said over lunch, you should go to law school. That was the innocent comment that he made. And from there, it took me to sitting here with you today. And that journey was simply, I'm going to see if I can do okay on the LSAT.
So you took the LSAT.
Yeah. And then I did okay.
And then you went into...
And then I went to law school. And I said, let's just see if I can go to law school.
How was that experience first walking into law school after having a career? Because it's different than just going straight from undergrad to taking the LSAT, not taking a break, and then going to law school. How do you remember how it felt?
Oh, yeah.
The first...
Yeah, I was older than a lot of the students there. A lot of kids go straight from undergrad.
Sure.
A majority of them do. Or they're maybe a couple years into work and then they go to law school. I was 15 years removed from my undergrad. And then I go to law school. I wasn't the oldest person in law school, but I was by no means the youngest. And so I was kind of the father figure. I relished that role a lot.
But I mean, it also gave you some advantages, I would think.
Yeah.
Because at that point, you're more seasoned. I say that instead of saying older. See, you were more seasoned, more experience with life, and you had a goal. You weren't messing around. You were going to law school to achieve something with your degree. Did you know at that time what you wanted to do?
I didn't. I knew when I got into law school, because I took on a mountain of debt to do it, that I needed to pay that off as quickly as possible.
Sure.
So I started to identify areas of law where I could be the most impactful, the quickest. And being partner at a big firm and waiting 7 years to be named a partner did not sound fun to me. And so I fell into injury law because I realized it was probably the area where I could make the most difference the quickest. And if I was decent at it, I could pay off those student loans the fastest.
Sure. And when you went out in the personal injury landscape, when you started taking that role, did you go out, you hung your own shingle as soon as you graduated, or were you working with others? How did you navigate into, okay, now I graduated, now I have this degree, people can actually hire me to help them. Then what?
Yeah. So while I was in law school,
Okay.
I identified another law student that was about the same age as me. He'd gone to school. He was a real estate agent. He'd gone to school later in life. And we both looked at each other and we said, I kind of want to do this with a partner. Do you want to work on this together? And he said, yeah. And I said, the problem that we're going to have is money. We're going to need money. So we started an investment company while we were in law school to raise capital to start our law firm.
Explain that. What do you mean, investment company? So that's something that a person with a life prior to law school would know to do. So tell me how you fell into that and what made you do that, besides the fact that you needed the money.
Yeah, it was by necessity.
Sure.
That's really what it came down to. We needed to raise money. And so we were living off our student loans while we were in law school. And so we decided, he had this real estate background. At the same time, there was this explosion of private equity buying real estate in Arizona. And so we partnered with this company and became their transactional partners in their pursuit of buying all these homes. And so literally between classes, we were writing real estate contracts and executing deals and buying houses. And then we were driving all over the valley they had to see them. You had to lay eyes on them. So we'd come to Glendale and we'd see a house. We'd go to Queen Creek and we'd see a house and we'd be like, hey, let's write a contract on this one. And we'd buy it. And they just had a deep, deep wallet. And so we were buying these houses. Everything that we made, our fee off of these, all went into an account that we called Skybridge Investments, that we then saved to fund the law firm for our first year practice.
Interesting. And so I have a background in real estate. I actually did that before I went into law school. And so I love even today, I love finding houses that need to be fixed and flipped. It was I enjoy that part of it. So you knew how to do that. So had you been in real estate before? Now, did you use your media background in any way?
No, I used my sales background.
Sales background.
Yeah. I was a salesperson. My friend Brian, my former partner Brian, he was a real estate agent. He was still licensed.
Okay.
So he used his license and I was one out there finding the business.
Now for sales, tell me, give me some of the background of your sales background. Tell me what you're starting with the earliest sales position.
Earliest sales position, selling my mom on why my allowance should be higher than it was when I was a kid. That was my earliest memory of sales.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Positioning myself to get a raise inside the house.
Or like you saw moments ago, my 7-year-old trying to position himself to get his iPad before the 4:00 time that he has.
That was sales.
Yes. And he got it. He was getting it. So
good salesman. Enzo knows what he's doing. Yeah. So that's where it started. And then I got into working in media sales while I was an undergrad at ASU. Okay. And I worked for the student newspaper. And my job was, and this is, again, everything that I do in life is to make my life a little bit easier. Parking at ASU is atrocious. I remember. It's really bad. And so if you work for the student newspaper, you could park on campus, literally in the middle of campus. There was a little parking lot that was next to the office. And so I was like, oh, I'll work here. I can park on campus. That's why I took the job, not because I was actually interested in sales. And then I just started to go out and I would talk to bars and they were like, hey, we need to advertise this big special we're having this weekend. We need a bunch of kids to come to it. I was like, well, this is kind of fun. And then I'd be on the list and I'd go for free and I get my friends in for free. And all of a sudden it just turned into something from there.
That's amazing. You were able to seize that moment and the fringe benefits too. Yeah. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, I'm a firm believer that sales is a big part of being a successful attorney. And my first sales job was being the barista at Dunkin' Donuts, right? Where you had to work for tips. Back in the day, I think it was like maybe $4 an hour. And so we would make tips off of the coffees that we sold. And so that was like my first introduction to sales, then into selling cabinets, and then cold call selling vitamins, which is, a difficult position, but we were really good at it. Is when people would call in after watching those those infomercials, and then we would go ahead and sell them on all of the vitamins in the world would be the best thing for them. And so I did that, and then bartending and waitressing. Those were my sales.
All sales.
And all things that I use today.
For sure.
I mean, I don't serve beer with every fee agreement that I have, but I have learned how to read people, and I've learned how to be able to pivot my position and my argument depending on certain things that I can capture from a conversation.
I love that. And I think that sales has been given a dirty, not a dirty word, but it's used in a negative light. And I don't really like that, because I think sales is a terrific thing. We're all selling on a daily basis in everything that we do. One of the best compliments I ever got in the profession was a former client who's still a friend of mine today, said, Jonathan never sold me anything, but I bought a hell of a lot from him.
That's a good compliment.
Yeah, I thought that was decent at it.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing here. That's the kind of compliment I want in the law. Like I've told people, if I could sit down in an intake, put me up against Keith Mitnick, if you're watching, Nick Rowley, I'm going to land it over you. I'm better at that than you are. You may be better in the courtroom, and I will concede that.
Okay.
You put me in front of a client, I'm better than that than you are, Cristina.
As a closer.
I will close the client. I'm good at that. That is one thing I've been very good at.
Sure.
Over my career.
So I have to say that's one of my strong suits. It's always been one of my strong suits. But
I agree with you. Let's not compete with each other.
We're not going to compete against each other. I won't, because you're a guest and I have to be polite to guests. Right?
Yes.
But I mean, it is, I commend you for that confidence. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
So now you went on with your partner then after law school, you had this money saved up from the real estate venture that you guys were doing, and you opened up your shingle.
We did. And
you grew pretty big. I remember.
Yeah. But we started out doing rent law, anything to pay the rent.
Okay.
Like we took anything. You had a DUI, I can do that. Which is a mistake. Like, I don't know why they're letting kids with law degrees do this, but like there should be some sort of like when you in medicine, you have to go to a residency, you have to do some work before you're like hands on patients. In the law, you get your license and off you go. But like you had an HOA dispute, we could handle that. You had something to do with the charter school, we could deal with that. We did anything to pay the rent.
And there is an apprenticeship program.
Right.
Which they have in other fields.
Correct. And I think maybe they should have something like that. What I would tell all young attorneys to do is find a mentor like a Cristina and ask if you can learn from her. Because if you don't, you're making a drastic mistake. And that's where your bar card is going to be in jeopardy.
I agree with you. I mean, and I think sometimes when there's that pressure, you have to pay the bills. I mean, student loans are serious. They're no joke. And you're just trying to get by with whatever you can. It becomes very tempting to be able to just say, you know what, I can handle that, because we have friends and family who are, for me, and I know you too, call us for every single thing, and they think that we can handle everything under the sun. So it's tempting to say yes, even though you're not equipped to do that, because I would never want to be in front of a family court dispute, like some family law dispute. That's just not my jam. No interest in it. But I guess it's the same thing with like tenant landlord. I was trying to figure out whether I've done anything like that. I mean,
I felt the same way. I didn't know what I was doing. I did enough to not commit malpractice.
Okay.
But was I good at it? No. No, I wasn't good at it.
When did you realize, or when was your first point where you were like, okay, I have to say no? So I started saying no early on, but because I kept to my bankruptcy, and I did some landlord tenant law. I do remember that. I actually went to trial. I went to trial against Hull and Holiday. Do you remember? They were like a big landlord firm here.
Okay.
And they did a lot of evictions. I won.
Oh,
I won. I
congrats.
did. Thanks. He actually made a comment because I can't remember the name, which one it was, but he made a comment. They were surprised that I won because that's what he did all day. But he was representing in this case, he was representing some slumlord that was taking advantage of the client. That's the only reason why I took it, because I have a thing for the underdog, right? Otherwise, I probably would have said no, but I needed to fight for justice, which landed me in trial. So
Love that.
one of those expensive principal lessons.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
when was the first time that you realized, okay, I need to start saying no and I want to start honing in into my area, which turned into personal injury? I know you do some products as well.
Yeah. So my partner and I, after a year, went our separate ways. He got an opportunity to go do some stuff in a different area of law. He didn't like the high risk that came along with injury law, and I had fallen in love with it. We had like 10 cases. And so I was like, I'll take these, you take the rest of it. We'll call it a partnership and move on. And I started up my own firm. And then I just started to hustle to get new cases, and I started to grow, and I started to put everything back in the firm. And to answer your question, I would say after a couple of years, I got to the point where I could say no, but I also realized I couldn't take other areas of law because I quickly realized what you realized, which is I wasn't good at it. And so to take a DUI was a mistake. I was doing the client a disservice.
Sure.
So I said no, not because I could afford to say no, but because it really wasn't the right thing to do. And so I just stopped taking cases I couldn't handle that were outside of my wheelhouse.
Not to mention, if you care, I care about my clients. I know you care about your clients. The amount of brain power it takes to learn a new area that you don't know, and the continuous fear of committing malpractice would outweigh. It would encompass me, like completely, like just make me focus on that particular case, and it would actually make me start avoiding my normal cases so that I wouldn't mess up on the case that I didn't know. That's kind of one of the reasons why I just had to say no, because I'm just not a good person, because I don't sleep enough as it is. And so when I have one of those stresses, I just, it's not a good combination for me.
Well, and the personal injury arena is huge.
Yeah.
You mentioned products. That's kind of within personal injury. That could be its own specialty all by itself.
Well, I would
kind of say it is.
I would argue that it is. I know people who do both, but to do products really well, it's its own animal.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Which is where that's the conference that we met at.
That is the conference we met at
in Chicago.
Oh, that was so much fun. It snowed.
It did.
In April.
I know. And then that's when I met Dylan.
Yes.
Oh, I like Dylan. I like Dylan a lot.
Dylan's great.
I know. So, have you spoken to him?
Yeah, he just won a trial up in Colorado, took a case that was probably worth maybe a couple $100,000 and turned it into $1 million judgment.
Oh, really?
Yeah, verdict. I should say verdict. Since we're on Verdict and Vogue, is that what it's called?
Verdicts and Vogue.
Yeah, so he got over $1 million verdict on that one.
That's cool.
Yeah, so
I'm gonna text him. He's my Instagram friend, so I see him every once in a while on there on my feed.
I love that.
So now you grew your firm, you went out on your own, you did your thing, and what were you starting to focus on?
All injury law. And it was primarily MVAs, which are motor vehicle accidents. That was primarily the work. Then I got into started doing slip and falls, dog bites, anything that was in that personal injury arena, and then stumbled into product cases, and then really started to get interested in that and started to do more work in products.
Sure. So you have a couple of products. I know you had a couple of tire cases.
Yep.
That you were dealing with. Did you have also a couple of explosion cases?
Fire cases,
Fire cases, yeah. So out of all of the cases that you're currently handling or that you handled, what do you think it would be your one is that you would consider your jam?
Where I feel like I'm best, or
you enjoy?
I think that I probably enjoy the clients more than I do the legal work. And because I was one of those people, right? I grew up completely poor. I grew up without anything. And if it wasn't for others helping me, I wouldn't be where I am today. And so to be able to give back in this little way is extremely important to me. It's extremely special to me. It's what I will probably miss the most about practicing law, because I'm kind of sunsetting that portion of my career and heading off to do other things.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah. So I know I'm fast forwarding a little bit, but that's kind of the part that I'll miss the most, is working with the client. So it's not a particular case or a particular thing, like even an area of work, like it was an airbag case versus it's not that. It's more the clients, and all of those people they all have a big piece of my heart and forever will, because of the relationship you build with these people. When you work on cases for years, you get to know people and they get to know you.
Well, that's the main thing, right? You're doing the job for your clients. They're trusting you with their worst moment in worst moment of their life.
Yeah.
And you get to know them and their family and basically delve into their life so you can tell their story. So I'm assuming you still keep in touch with your clients.
A lot of them, yes. We still text. They're not just Instagram friends. They're real friends.
Are you minimizing my relationship with Dylan?
Sorry, Dylan.
Don't listen to him, Dylan. I'm going to have to text him after this. I'm like, don't listen to Jonathan. So now that you mentioned that your son's sitting out, I know that that's the case. You are transitioning to another chapter of your life.
I am.
Tell me why.
So that is a long conversation.
Okay.
That
abbreviated version.
Okay, I'll give you the Reader's Digest version for those kids that still know what Reader's Digest is. I did what I wanted to do in this profession. I've been doing it for about a dozen years.
Sure.
I've very much enjoyed the work. As I just said, I really enjoyed meeting and making friends with all of these people and helping these families. But it's not where I think my strength is. I said earlier that my strength was in sales, and it still remains in sales. It always has been. The legal work is not where I've always excelled. I've had really good attorneys like Dylan working alongside me that have made me way more successful than I probably should have been. And I'm decent at it, but not great at that. That is where a Keith Mitnick, where a Cristina Perez, where Nick Rowley, they're better than me at that. You're better at that than I am. And so I recognize that, and I know that about myself. It's also not where my heart is anymore. And so I don't want to do something I'm not in love with. And I'm fortunate enough to have made enough money to not have to do that.
Okay.
So I can go do something else. And so now my next play will be outside of this profession.
So have you, because we spoke about this about a year ago, I think, maybe 6 months ago. And we talked about you were thinking about it. And I kind of did, but I didn't know if you had already figured out what your next venture was.
I'm still working on it. We just had a meeting yesterday. I have a partner on this where it's going to be in technology. We know that. It may have something to do with the law. We're certainly exploring some technology that can be incorporated into the legal field. I don't know if it'll specifically be an injury, probably won't be, but it may have a legal aspect to it in the sense that we may be serving that industry, but not working on the active practice of law. Okay.
Well, I know you like to create, right? You like to put things together. You like to build up. I mean, I think that's kind of your passion where you just like that initial portion. Is it your time to now create something new?
That is well said. Probably better stated than I've said about myself. That's exactly what I like to do. I like to create and build and then move on.
Okay.
So I created and build my practice, and now I'm going to move on from that.
And I just find it so hard. You're so good at being a lawyer. I mean, you're just no. I always looked up to you.
I could sell you on that. I could make you believe I'm good at this.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm excited for you. I want to learn more about it as it develops. And if it does have any crossover with the law, hopefully I'm kept apprised so that it can benefit what we're doing for our clients as well. So that'll be a cool thing. Now, I know that I have to ask you some questions that bring you in your personal life too, because that's like the Vogue part, like the trendy, what's in, right?
That's why I wore these shoes.
They're very trendy.
Yeah.
They're pink. So they're perfect. And nice socks too.
Oh yeah. Look at those fancy socks. I did this all for you. This is all intentional.
Thank you.
This is not an accident. This is on purpose.
I am so honored that you put so much thought into your outfits. So you're very into working out, very into marathons, and you did what's it called? The World Marathon
Challenge.
The World Marathon Challenge, or just World?
No, but the World Marathon Challenge.
Okay, can you tell us what that is?
Yeah, so it's you attempt to run 7 marathons on 7 continents in 7 straight days.
And you achieved this.
I did.
Can you tell me what continents? It just blows my mind.
Well, you know there are only 7, right? We can go through them.
I know.
You want to know where on the continents? Because what I get asked most often is Antarctica. And I'm like, it is one of the continents.
But where did you run?
So we started in what?
Fair question.
What continents?
No.
Let me list 14 of the 7. There's
touche.
This was your fault.
I know I did it. I didn't.
So we started in South Africa.
Okay.
We ran our first marathon there. Then we went over to Antarctica and ran a marathon on a sheet of ice.
How did you run in Antarctica?
So we had to have special shoes with those big claws on them that could grip the ice, and you're still falling down. People were getting hurt left and right. You had to have special gear. I mean, it was negative 30 degrees.
But you did 26.2 miles.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah. In fact, the funniest story of finishing that marathon is the race organizer who was handing out the medals. It was so cold. He's in his truck at the finish line. He rolls down the window enough to stick the medal out and hand it to me. He didn't even like get out to hand it to me. It was so, he basically drops it out the window and was like, here you go.
He just chucks it at you?
Yeah, then threw it at me. And then I headed straight into the like barracks that we were trying to stay warm in.
And that's day 2.
That was day 2.
And so then you jump on a plane.
We go to Perth, Australia.
And then you go ahead and then you run 26 miles in Australia.
At 2 a.m.
And you start at 2 a.m. and then what time do you finish?
I probably finished as the sun was rising, about 6.
Okay.
That was my fastest marathon. So it was like a little over 4 hours.
On day 3.
On day 3.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then from there we jumped back on a plane and we headed to where did we go? We went to Dubai.
Okay.
That was wild. Dubai is wild. They did not like my passport in Dubai. They were like spending a lot of time. And you're like full on when you're in the airport. I don't know if you've been to Dubai. It's like the sheiks. They're wearing the full gear, the full garb. And it is not like, they didn't like that the women were not fully dressed with headdresses on. Like the women are like in running gear. They were on this trip.
Boy.
They did not like that. But
did they not clear it before? They
did, but they just were making it known that they were not a fan of what we were doing. And then we're running that marathon again, kind of in the middle of the night, kind of like early morning. And I'm running down this boardwalk in Dubai. It's beautiful. And then all the sirens start going off because they're going to start doing their morning prayer. And I didn't know if it was disrespectful to keep running. So I was like, are we supposed to stop and pray? Like, I didn't know what to do. And the race organizer was like, you got to finish the marathon, keep running. And there's literally people on mats praying.
And you're running.
And I'm running.
Oh.
Talk about a weird scene.
Yeah,
talk about some cultural issues there. I was like, this does not feel right.
Sure.
But we had to finish the marathon. My job was to run a marathon.
Okay. Well, I mean, that I can see that's hard to even picture. So I have like secondhand embarrassment and
I have
awkwardness for you. I know.
I have firsthand awkwardness. It was wild. And then we get on a plane and we go to Madrid, Spain.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And that's where my wife met me. And if my wife didn't meet me, I don't know if I finished this trip. She meets me in Madrid, and she and her girlfriend went over and did like a whole vacation. And then she came to the race.
She was like, see ya, I'm not going to Antarctica, but I'll meet you in Spain.
I mean, yeah. I mean, there's good wine in Spain. There's no wine in Antarctica. Whenever you're like, let me get some Antarctica wine. That doesn't exist. So we go to Madrid and we're running on an F1 racetrack. Here's the thing I learned about an F1 racetrack. They're not flat. They are hilly. Racetracks are, I thought it was going to be like, I'm thinking like a flat racetrack. It's like.
Oh, the F1s?
Yeah, because I'd never been to an F1 event. I didn't know. And I was like, we're going to run on a racetrack that's so cool. Then I'm like running up a hill and I'm like, this isn't as cool as I thought. But she ran, we did laps. And so that one was, I think we had to do like 6, maybe 8 laps. She ran every other lap with me.
Okay.
So she did a half marathon without any training, just to spend time with me. And like, cause I wasn't running fast at that point. I was in marathon 5.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't running fast. And so she did every other half with me.
That's support right there.
That's great. Yeah.
Did you do 6 and 7 too?
She did the half and then I had to leave. I did the full.
Okay.
Yeah. So then I was like, give her a kiss and I had to go.
Where'd you go for the 6?
We went to Fortaleza, Brazil. You ever been there?
Ooh, no, I have not. Is it pretty?
No. And it's hot.
Oh.
So we went from a few days earlier being negative 30 to being 99 degrees in the middle of the day. We're running at noon.
How's your body doing during all this?
It was not doing well at that point.
This is day 6 and you went from cold to hot. Well, Spain is nice because
Spain was nice.
I mean, I love the weather there.
Yeah, it was great.
And then to Brazil, which I pictured like tropical.
It was not. It was awful.
Oh, really?
It was so bad. It was so, people are like, they call it bonking and running. It's where you just your body shuts down. People were just stopping. People just weren't finishing the race. And
was it because of humidity or was it?
Oh, yeah. It was terrible humidity with 99 degrees. And it was in the middle of the day, the sun, and people were just dropping out. So I don't know how I finished it, but I did. They had to give us a police escort back to the airport through Brazil because we couldn't get there in time. Our flight was we had our own plane that we were flying on. They had to get us back there. And I called my wife and I felt terrible. And I said, I don't think I can do the 7th marathon. And she was like so kind. And so she was like, you did 6. This is amazing. Because I have to tell you, I'd never run a marathon before I did this in my life. Yeah. So I was the jackass that just said, let's go run 7 on 7 different continents. Why not?
Are you for real?
I'm serious.
See, I never knew that part of the story.
Oh, I was not a runner. No, I
just know you work out a lot. So I figured
Well, that's what I figured. Let's go run a marathon. Why not?
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So then you end up.
I end up feeling terrible, and we're flying to Miami. That's our final marathon, Miami in Florida. That's North America. And
thank you. And then
for all of you listening, that's the 7th continent.
So now, did your wife? She basically was supportive, but she kind of guilted you into let's do the 7th.
She was like, "Don't be a baby. Come on, you did 6. Let's get the 7th one done." But I had hurt my leg. I didn't know it at the time. I broke my leg. I didn't know it at the time. I just knew it hurt.
From when did it start hurting?
After that 6th marathon, it was really bad. And so I was like, I don't think I can even run. And so I started to run. And one of the runners, she was so kind. She was like, can you kind of brace it and do like a fast walk, like extremely fast? And I was like, I think I can. You have a certain amount of time to finish this thing. So we had until noon that day. We started at like 7 a.m.
Okay.
And so I had like 5 hours. They only gave
you 5 hours to do.
Well, you have the clock starts when you start marathon 1. To complete the World Marathon Challenge, you have to do it in a certain amount. Like the clock starts, and then you have 168 hours to finish it. That's it. You have to do it in that amount of time, or otherwise you fail the challenge. The challenge is the clock never stops, even through travel. And so that's how much time I had left. There are people who are doing this a lot faster than me, but I kind of calculated in my mind, okay, I can get to this finish line if I just fast walk crazy fast. And so I did. And just, I was really fast. The picture of me finishing, I have like tape on my leg. I was in bad shape and then collapsed at the finish line.
But you made it.
I made it.
And when did you find out that it was broken?
When I got home, I did a MRI. Yeah. So I ran with a broken leg. How badass is that? I'm super impressed. Let me tell you something that shows that you have a lot of grit. Or I'm stupid.
You have to be a little bit in order to put everything aside and just get it done.
Yeah.
That's great. Is that a quality that you think you've always had?
Yeah. Yeah. That's something I got from my mom. Just growing up really poor. She never let us use our poverty as an excuse. She never let us, we couldn't, we weren't allowed to say, because I'm poor, I can't have, it was, you're going to go to college, you're going to figure it out. My brother, sister, and I have all become very successful because of that. It was never like, I have a lot of friends I went to school with that didn't become anything beyond high school because of where we grew up. And they were a product of their environment. And my mom wouldn't let us be that.
So she didn't allow for the excuses.
Correct.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's so if you would say to yourself, what quality did I have growing up that has really impacted and molded who I am today? Which quality would that be?
Adaptability.
Okay.
Yeah. I can adapt to a lot of different situations and learn how to work in an environment probably where I'm not comfortable pretty quickly.
And if you can look back to when you were your younger self and think, what is one instant or one that comes, I'm sure there's more, but there's one instance that really has impacted you and the way that you look at adversity or challenges today. What incident can you recall?
Yeah, I remember being adopted by a family during the holidays. So, you go to the mall and you pull a name off a tree, and now it's different. Back then it was like you could meet the family and really, like, they took me shopping. They took me to Kmart and I got to buy gifts for my family. And I remember this, and I remember thinking, I didn't know these people. They were strangers and they were just doing it out of the goodness of their heart. And I just remember thinking, I'm going to do a lot of that when I'm older. I'm going to be that on the other side of this. Somehow I'm going to find my way to that side where I can give back and support and help. And have you found your way back where you're supporting and giving back? I think so. I think through this profession, I think through my charitable efforts that I do, I think through just not forgetting what it's like to be underserved, to be disenfranchised, to be left out. I think I know what that feels like, and I don't forget it.
Oh, that's powerful.
Yeah.
Where did you grow up?
In Apache Junction.
Oh, Apache Junction.
So that's a reaction I get from people.
Well,
I grew up in Beverly Hills. Different reaction, right? Different place. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Apache. So I only have been to Apache Junction once.
Why?
Well,
did you need to buy some meth?
No, no, for my AA meeting. No,
you had to go for your AA meeting.
No,
way to bring it back.
Thanks.
That was good.
I'm sharp sometimes. No, I went when I was trying to get involved in politics. They had me do something for the Arizona Corporations Commission that they were running, and I had to go to to hand out flyers to a Tea Party meeting.
Oh wow!
Yeah. Oh, it was definitely an experience. My first introduction, and I think probably my only introduction to Apache Junction, which was interesting.
I'm glad it was one and done.
It was. I mean, I was taken aback by some of the things that some of these people were saying. So, especially, and I was also the only brown person in that room when I was chosen to go hand out flyers to the Tea Party members. Not
very diverse.
No,
not.
Yeah. So
yeah. But I remember growing up, we had this. We were fortunate to have a house. A lot of my friends had trailers, but when it would rain, we knew where to go put the pots because it was going to leak through the roof. Like we knew where to put them in the house. And you laugh about that now, but I thought about like how sad that actually is that I knew where to go put the pots. Like you just learned it at such an early age. Like my brother taught me, I taught my sister. Like you're just like, this is where you put them because it's going to leak and we can't have the carpet get wet.
It's so funny. I mean, you look back, it's not funny, but you come back and just think, okay, certain things. We have like this story about my family about a rock. I don't know, for some reason we didn't have a can opener. So we all knew how to open up a can with a knife and a rock.
That's like, crafty. So adaptable is what that is.
But you look back and you're like, well, how is it that we did not have a can opener back in the day? I just don't get it. But yeah, you just things that you grew up with, like you just know.
Yeah. I think people that have that background in this profession have a leg up on all their competition. Because when you understand that, things that you are faced with, this profession is very difficult, specifically in the work that we do in injury law. And when you're faced with some of those obstacles and you're like, okay, I don't have the can opener, give me a rock and a knife and I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I think that's a really special trait that not everyone has in their back pocket.
I would agree with you. I also call that grit, right?
Yeah.
And you're not scared.
Right.
You're just not afraid because what do you have to lose?
Yeah. Like I told my former partner, the one I started my first practice with, I told him there was a difference between him and I. And he thought this was funny. I go, you're afraid of being poor. I'm not. There's a real difference there. Like, cause he grew up wealthy and I was like, you don't understand what it's like to be poor. Those are my people. Are you kidding? Like I can do that.
And I think, for me cause clients is my number one priority, like with what we do, right? So we're a service industry, like
correct.
And I want to make sure that they know they're not a number, that they're not just going to be run through a mill, that I'm going to know their name. I have clients that remember me for 15 years, send us Christmas cards, or follow or stop in and talk to us. But the big deal with that is that they relate to me. Like a lot of them, I can relate to them. I understand what their story is and some of the things that they go through. Growing up, I was there. Have been able to identify with them. And a lot of times, I mean, I get a lot of Hispanic families who will call me. I mean, they call me what my mom calls me sometimes, which was Cristinita. I have some clients who call me Cristinita or they call me Mija all the time. So it's relating to my clients too.
I love that.
Yeah. So for a long time, I was like, why are they doing, like, they were like, why are they like calling me like when my mom called me? But I think it shows that they care.
Yeah, and it's cultural. It's also we like to be around familiar things. We as human beings, and so when you see someone doing something that you feel like that's someone that's like me that can help me, that understands me, and that's a real important thing.
Sure. No, I agree with you. I agree. I have some questions for you. Hold on, because we're gonna wrap.
Is this like rapid fire? Are you gonna like ask my favorite color? And
yes.
Okay.
Hold on. Let's see. Look, I came prepared.
I love that you have like a printout. Oh, you don't have an iPad. You're in a studio.
Would you not mock me?
My tech company will get you an iPad. We will help you.
Please make sure you put our logo on it then.
Okay.
Okay, let's see. If your younger self could see you now, what would you be most proud of?
I think I'd be most proud of the fact that you did get to the other side of that experience you had at Kmart, and you've done a decent job. I could be better at remembering that each and every day.
Okay. What does success look like to you today?
I think success is a moving target, and I don't mean to be cagey with that answer, but I think it's not. Success is so individual. It's so subjective. It is such to one person's success could be waking up and getting out of bed.
Correct, which is why I asked you, what do you think success means to you today?
Are you lawyering me right now? Is that what that is like a deposition? And you said, what? Sir, the question was.
Well, now let's listen. What does success mean to you?
If I can smile on a daily basis, I feel like that's success. Yeah.
What is one habit or routine that you take credit for your growth?
Fitness is a big part of my life. And I think that has a lot to do with freeing me up mentally to be as strong as I am physically. I really do. I think that gives me an outlet that I otherwise probably wouldn't have and could do some negative things that wouldn't necessarily be productive. And so I think that's probably it's probably fitness for me.
Okay. And finally, last question. If you could have one meal, it doesn't matter where it is or how far away it is, and there's no time or financial constraints, what meal would you have?
This is my death row meal? Are we asking that question?
Yes. I said, you know what? I started using it that way. People are like, oh, that's kind of
it's dark.
It's dark. So I changed it. Yeah. But you got it.
The death row meal? Where it is and what it is. Can it be a combination of things, or does it have to be like one meal? Like I go to the Olive Garden and get the breadsticks. Is that?
Okay. Well, it depends how you define meal. So your last meal that you want, you can have anything you want.
I mean, there's a collection of things. My mom makes amazing banana bread. Okay. So I'd want that to be part of the meal.
Dessert.
Okay. My wife made these enchiladas. She is not Hispanic, so you would laugh at them because they are the whitest enchiladas you can make. Just listen.
I'm not Mexican. Yeah. I don't even know how to make enchiladas.
Okay, well, then she could teach you how to make these they're the whitest enchiladas. But the memory, she made them.
Racial profiler.
Well, you're going to have to edit this. This is not going to fly. She made these on our second date, not second date, third or fourth date, like one of the first early dates we had. And it was just such a fun dinner. Okay. I love those. She makes them. She doesn't make them all the time. She makes them she probably laugh when she hears this answer. She's like, that's what you want? They're like so lame. But like, I loved them. Okay. That would be because they just have a ton of memories that come along with them.
And they're made with love.
That's what I believe food is really about, is the experience and the love that comes along with it. I asked a chef who ran Maple and Ash for a while. Best meal. I asked him kind of a similar question. Yeah. And he said to me, it's not about the food. It's about the people I was with. And so it's hard to answer the question. I'm trying to answer it because you asked that question about the food, but it's really, these are memories that go along with the banana bread and go along with the enchiladas.
So that's a meal. You can have enchiladas and banana bread.
Yeah. And then my wife also makes these stuffed peppers. They're Italian stuffed peppers. Unbelievable.
Okay, so that's your appetizer then?
Yeah, it's appetizer, main, and they do not all go together. No. That is a weird dinner.
But it's okay. It's your dinner.
It's my death row dinner.
This is tailored to you.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Well, thank you for coming today. I really appreciate you taking the time and driving out here and sitting with me and giving me the opportunity to take over Legal Beagle. So thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you for having me. And like I said in the beginning, I couldn't have put this in better hands. I'm so excited to see where you take it and what you do with it and how it grows and becomes kind of your story. And I couldn't be happier for you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Well, everyone, that's a wrap. Have a good day.